Reminds me of when the Apple App Store launched, there were apps like Drink a Beer.
There was like a fart app that was like one of the most popular apps like in the App Store. So yeah, it's the same model. It blows my mind because of the App Store like duopoly with like Apple and Google. Something has to change, and Anatoly's vision is like, let's break this up. Maybe it doesn't happen today. Maybe it doesn't happen with Seeker, but it will happen. We will all be fully mobile using our crypto and not be using our computers for the most part anymore.
How can a new developer try to build, gain value from this?
I actually think that the large majority of the medium to large share mentality apps are not going to invest time into those things right now. You are competing against a small subset of people. So the newer developers, actually some guy who has a DEX just decides to ship to Seeker that it's not Drift or it's not any of these big ones on day one. People are like, I want to trade on a DEX. They'll just use this new developer's DEX because that's their option on that phone. So I see this as an opportunity.
Hello. Welcome everyone to the OnlyDevs podcast. Today we have with us the most famous shitposter on crypto Twitter, Chase Barker.
It's a great thing to be known for.
Yeah. And he's also reason why most of the early devs on Solana are on Solana. So he used to be the head of developer ecosystem for Solana. And
when we had 75 developers.
Yeah.
We still do.
Truly.
And now he's back from his quote-unquote retirement to do the same thing for Solana Mobile. Welcome, Chase, to the podcast.
We're so back.
We are so back indeed.
No, thanks for having me. Now the tables have turned. You were on my old podcast, Chewing Glass.
Oh, yeah. And that was my first ever podcast, by the way.
Yeah, it was I miss doing that specific podcast because like a lot of those were like well-known, not all of them, but a lot of them were well-known developers, like the Tensor guys before they got huge. So it's like a really cool, and also Paul, who basically wrote the Solana Bible, which was that old escrow program, from back in the day. So it's like a treasure trove of history. Like when I go back and just look at those interviews, Armani, before he had did all this stuff. So yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. How did Chase, how was retirement?
So yeah, that was always sort of like a joke and a meme. I knew that I was going to come back to something. But I thought I could make it 6 months. Basically I worked for 4 years. I mean, most people know I'm terminally online, but what people didn't know that I actually did a job at Solana Foundation behind the scenes, launching educational programs, doing all these, creating as many funnels as possible. One of my greatest successes, or I'm not attributing it directly to myself, which was just helping support Solana Turbine, which is now producing about 20% of the engineers. It brought Dean Little into light. He was always the shadowy figure for the longest time until I met him. And I'm now he's out there crushing it. So I'm just really thankful that I had, the people, to work with, throughout that process. But yeah, man, you know what? I forgot the question. Let's cut that. I forgot the question. I started rambling. I do this.
That is totally fine.
Yeah.
I mean, Turbine is incredible. Almost, I have never been not impressed with any engineer that I meet from Turbine. They all are freaking fantastic and always have something new or very interesting niche to talk about. So they have a very good community out there.
Yeah, but when you were asking about the retirement stuff, it was 2.5 months in of just sort of doing the things that I loved. It was really just about the whole point that I was saying earlier was that I was working so much. I was doing all these things behind the scenes. I was probably online 16 to 17 hours a day. And a 2-week vacation wouldn't fix it. I needed to spend time with my family. But 2.5 months in, my wife was already annoyed of me being around too much. and I was sort of watching everybody do a bunch of cool stuff, and I just needed to get back into it. I got back into it.
Cool. Tell us more about what you're doing now.
Yeah, so long story short, I was in Thailand for 3 months, and on my way back to New York City, I ran into the COO of Solana Mobile, and he essentially was just like, "Hey, we're about to launch the phone. We need somebody just like you to help us attract developers." And then he was like a little hint, hint, nudge, nudge, like, "What about you?" And at first, I was just like, "Don't you dare!" And then, like, within a day, I was like, "Let's do it," because Seeker, there's a Saga, it sold 2,000 or 20,000 devices. 150,000 pre-orders for Saga or for Seeker makes that extremely compelling to me. There's some airdrop farmers out there who bought those phones, but you cut that 150 in half, 75,000 potential. Even if it's only 75,000, that's more than, that's more than 95%.
Yeah, I mean, we started with 75. Look at where that got us.
Yeah, so I mean, like,
5K.
they really just needed somebody to be out there and be loud and make people know that this stuff exists. And luckily I have another, at Foundation, I had Jacob Creech, who's incredible, more technical than I am. And now I have another, his name's Mike Solisto. He's the DevRel for Solana Mobile. He's actually incredible. So it's like, we got a strong duo, we're going to be running that same playbook back. And today we just announced a mobile focused hackathon that will fast follow Coliseum, targeting people who have already built apps to convert those to mobile and ship to the DApp Store. So pretty excited about just starting from scratch again. Feels good.
What type of developers are you looking to get on board? Are these primarily people building apps, or you're much more focused on developers first?
I think probably just considering in order for Seeker and Solana Mobile to succeed, there has to be compelling apps. There has to be compelling use cases. There has to be all of those things out of the gate. So initially there's going to be some of the larger apps that are going to be porting over. I always consider myself small dev BD. Coliseum runs these super incredible competitions. 40 teams win. You've got about 100, maybe more now, that are just barely missed winning.
Mm-hmm.
And the goal here would be they've already have a business. They already have a pitch deck. They already have apps. All you have to do is drink a bunch of Monster over a weekend and convert your web app to mobile. Depending if you build native or if you do React Mobile, you could probably do it in a weekend, longest a week, if you and a couple buddies just sat down and crunched that out. So to answer your question, it's more usable apps that belong in an app store initially. I think, maybe that strategy changes, but as Seeker launch approaches, we need apps, and we need apps that people want to use.
Yeah, I know. And also, the Seeker itself is such a fertile playground to show what consumer crypto could be like, right? So I think this reminds me of when the Apple App Store launched. There were apps like, drink a beer.
What was the fun? There was a fart app that was one of the most popular apps in the App Store. So yeah, it's the same model. It blows my mind because of the App Store duopoly with Apple and Google, that crypto has been frozen. The majority of people in the world do not have computers. The large majority do not. They're all on their phones. Almost everybody in the world has a phone now. And they're basically not able to really use crypto outside of a wallet right now. So they don't get exposure. And it's really silly to think that it'll be like that forever. I don't think it's going to be something we will not be using crypto only on our computers forever. Something has to change, and Anatoly's vision is let's break this up. Maybe it doesn't happen today. Maybe it doesn't happen with Seeker, but it will happen. We will all be fully mobile using our crypto and not be using our computers for the most part anymore.
Does it mean you're also interested in apps that do not necessarily have a crypto component, but then they're just tired of paying the 30% cut to Google or Apple? They could still launch on Seeker.
I think that's that would be nice, it would be nice to have non-crypto apps that something that people could use that's non-crypto related. But I don't know if there's a compelling, maybe there is a pitch, but they don't have access to the millions and hundreds of millions of users.
Maybe not
Eventually, yes. I think if you have a successful phone, and like you start to have a bunch, yeah, it would be nice to have like Evernote or like Notion or some of these apps on there for sure. Just things that you use in your daily tasks, because sure, you have this crypto device and you do crypto things, but like if you want to use it as your daily phone, you probably also want to have like Slack and Notion and all these other apps as well.
I'm curious to know, the first Solana mobile phone, what kind of adoption did it have? Do you track metrics around 20,000 people bought?
I mean, I don't personally have access to that, but I will tell you that like there was very little users after the sort of like, the bonk like airdrops sort of reinvigorated that, but it just never caught that adoption level. The number of apps, the level of apps and experiences were not really there and compelling enough. I think this time around things are a little bit different. Like we have a lot more builders, we have a lot more founders, we have a lot more people that probably see the vision to do that, and like mobile apps offer some specific things like that you don't have with computers, like, like GPS. What is that thing that you use for motion? Like
Yeah,
it's,
Okay.
yeah. So there's things unique to cell phones that you can create crypto related things around that you can't really do with a computer. And it's like tapping into those unique things to create certain experiences, I think will be helpful. But at the end of the day, people are still going to be like trading fart coin on Pump.Fun. Like, like this is like, it's just the early stages of that. But if I can do that on the go on my mobile phone, then like, I think people will be compelled to actually use it.
Yeah, I think that it reminds me of this argument. Some famous, VC made when mobile was just after iPhone was launched in 2007. It was like mobile makes a trend. Future of computing is mobile because humans are mobile, right? Like because
Exactly.
people move around, they do.
How often are people sitting at like a desk all day? Like I'm a little bit of a boomer. I sit at a desk more than most people, but I think on the go is the way that people are working. If your job is not engineering, you can work directly off your phone, and a lot of people do. Slack, Telegram, all those things. This is like, I don't want to pull out my clunky computer to go like
Yeah.
trade or do whatever I need to do. You don't have to anymore.
Yeah, and also it's pretty much a generational thing, right? If you look at a lot of the younger generation, kids,
They might not. They might never.
they probably never even open to use something on a website or a desktop.
At the most, they have an iPad with a keyboard.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
maybe.
exactly. If it's not a mobile app and you're a consumer app, you don't really have users.
Yeah, my son, who's 15, like to get him to use a computer for stuff, he's just like doesn't want to do it. He was like, "Why? I just have an iPad. I have my phone." Like those generations are just like, "Why? I don't need all of these things anymore." And they don't. They're right. They don't. I think they're a signal where the future is headed, and it's 100% headed to mobile.
Yeah. Mobile has a very big chicken and egg problem, which I'm sure you saw with the first, mobile phone as well. Which I'm assuming is if there aren't enough apps, then a lot of people won't use. Do you think this is the biggest unlock here? If you have the best apps, viral apps on the phone, is that?
I think that's probably the most important thing, is to have a suite of apps, like at the very minimum your daily driver applications that you're going to be using, like the wallets. Of course they're allowed in the other stores for like they have their own rules apparently, but I think like make sure that you have a nice trading app, and make sure that you have these different like sort of crypto apps, that you have like the same crypto apps that you would have as your web apps exist on those phones, because, humans, their first impression of that phone, they open up that DApp Store and it's empty or has uninteresting things. They're like, okay, I'm going to tuck this in the corner and wait for my airdrops to roll in. So having those dApps and having good ones is going to be extremely important, I think.
Right. Do you think most of the volumes will go to, web apps that are already doing well? Like Jupyter will build their mobile app, Pump.Fun will build their mobile app. Everyone will go there. How can a new developer try to gain value from this?
I actually think that the large majority of the medium to large share mentality apps are not going to invest time into those things right now. I'm not 100% certain, but like it has to be, they already have gained market share beyond the mass majority. So I think I see this as the reverse. In that market, competing on the web app crypto scale, you're competing against every blockchain and against every app in those different ecosystems. With Seeker, you're going to have 150 potential power Solana users who have money, who know how to use crypto, and and then a lot of people that are going to wait for the signal to join that DApp store before they actually put those resources. So I see these early movers, these guys, even before Seeker comes out, the Seeker and Saga DApp store are exactly the same DApp store. So you could submit today. That Seeker launches, you are competing against a small subset of people. So the newer developers actually, let me give an example. Let's say no DEXs launch on like Seeker from day one. Some guy who has a DEX and just decides to ship to Seeker that it's not Drift or it's not any of these big ones on day one. People are like, I want to trade on a DEX. They'll just use this new developer's DEX because that's their option on that phone. So I see this as an opportunity for newer apps, newer developers, newer founders to get access to users easier and whenever there's not a ton of competition. Because once the big guys start to port over, the mind share is directed towards them. So I see this as probably like the reverse is like the way that you were possibly thinking about it is this is an opportunity to compete in an area that's not as broad as the whole crypto ecosystem. It's just Solana and it's just those apps in that DApp store from day one. And then all those big guys aren't going to do it until it's compelling enough for them to do it.
Yeah.
And also another category that I'm very interested in is games and entertainment, because now, so far, if you took any Web3 game, you were restricted by what you could do in a browser. The majority of the gaming today, especially hyper casual ones, are on mobile. So I wondered, what do you at all think gaming as like a major category, or is it something that you guys are actively pursuing?
I mean, there's a lot of people. I've actually, whenever I announced that I was doing Solana Mobile, I got a ton of messages from people that are like building games right now, looking to build them. Like, you're from India. Like, if you look at places like India or like a lot of places in like South Asia or like just like Asia in general, people are on their phones. They're playing mobile games all the time. And like, there's no reason why eventually that's not going to happen. But I think initially right now we're just still like crypto's still in its degenerate gambler phase. But those are all just primitives to experiment with the ideas where the actual real shit gets built, like a layer up from that sort of from that degeneracy, some real shit begins to happen. And we're seeing that happen with crypto, like institutional adoption right now. I think gaming is going to make it at some point, but right now it just seems like most people are interested in like making a lot of money very quickly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Speaking of which, I saw you guys announce a token called Seeker.
Yeah.
And also very confusingly sounding deep. And what exactly is that?
So this is all brand new to me, so I won't be able to answer that very technically for you right now. But yeah, so I don't have enough information. That the token itself also, I was only made aware of that recently. So
okay,
but it sounds like a lot of that is going to be somehow like as helping to be the glue for the crypto economy within the mobile universe. Like those sorts of things, like incentive mechanisms or what helps crypto bootstrap itself. So. And also legally, I don't know what I can say about this stuff, so I'll probably avoid most of that topic right now.
Gotcha.
But I think one thing that they did mention though is a play is that like the hardware is one thing, but like selling the software and the DApp store and the things behind Seeker and a play on like the OEM sort of stuff is also in the equation. It's like we don't have to sell hardware devices forever. We can prove it out on our hardware and then get into these other devices. And like hopefully maybe that like, like once you get inside there and they start to see like what the possibilities are that maybe breaks up that barrier that you can't really get into initially. So like, I do think the hardware device is a stepping stone. You can continue building those devices, but you can also try to get into other distribution networks by like pitching the software, the security of the device, and then just like with a little bit of luck and like the way that things shift over the next like 12 to 24 months, I think that, people are going to be a lot more open to that. The Genius bill is about to pass with the stablecoin stuff. I think more phones who were very conservative about the way that they handle crypto could very much change. It could change like that. So, it's always a lot of hard work and a little bit of luck. So with that, I think there's a lot of potential.
What are your top 5 project ideas, or maybe 3 project ideas for people to build for the hackathon?
Oh my goodness. I don't even know if I could do that. If I were to, like I said, I think we're going to mainly focus, like we want anybody to build those apps, but I think simple apps, obviously like what's hot right now is the meme coins, and I don't endorse it, but like this is just what people are really liking. But if I had to build something, I would think very deeply about the types of things people do on their devices every day. Like for me, like just simply like, if I want to trade, I would like to have a Robinhood style application. Like, especially if you're trying to pull in non-crypto people, the interface is so different that I don't know if you guys have used Robinhood before, but the interface to trade stocks on there is so different. It has all this information about these things. So it's like a lot different of process. So I would try to like figure out a way to simplify sort of like, the mystery and the complexities of crypto. If I had something that I could go, Tinder is a good example. Swipe left, swipe right. If there was something that I could implement like that in trading, I would do it. Like the less steps a user has to do, the better. So while I'm not a product guy or a business guy, I think like creating simple ideas, just like we talked about earlier about the fart apps that were successful in the Apple Store in the early days, you should think that same way with crypto. Swipe left, right, up, down, like that should be the user experience. Because if you got these complex apps built into these things and people's got to do 10 different things to do, you're going to have a hard time just keeping a user from like, you might lose them before they even make it to the final step of your app. I think simplicity is the most important thing when we're talking about mobile. Because who out here wants to use a complex app? I open Twitter, I type a word, I shitpost, tweet, boom. Like, sometimes crypto, I think we get a little too complex with our ideas.
That makes sense.
I would love a blogging app.
A
blogging one.
Yeah.
Somebody in this room must be building.
Yeah. I mean, if anyone wants to build a blogging app, all the code is available on the GitHub. Please take it to whatever you want.
I personally would like use a journaling like blogging app if it was on chain. But the question is like, it's hard for somebody to build that because what's the business model behind like a blogging app?
Yeah.
Put a token on it.
Yeah, and also I think some other cool ideas could be to, take advantage of things that are uniquely possible on Seeker. Like how you had things that are only possible on Solana because this is the only place where you could do fast transaction. Seeker is probably the only place where you have access to a seed vault. And that potentially opens up like, different application possibilities, right? Things that you want to keep ultra secure, for example, a journal where you want to keep everything private and completely on your device without it ever going to the cloud.
And I agree. And like, I'm not good. Like, just to be honest, I'm never giving up my iPhone. This is my daily phone. But what I do not like personally is I do not like having my crypto finances on my personal daily driver. When I'm traveling in my backpack, if I want to do crypto stuff, if I want like my secure on like the secure storage on there to keep like larger sums of money and also be able to interact with Solana apps, I would rather I don't want to do that on my computer. Like, let's say I'm at a coffee shop or the airport. I don't want to pull out my computer to do all that stuff. I would prefer to just have a crypto phone, and this is where all my crypto finance stuff belongs. This is where I trade. This is where I do all these different things. I don't want that on my iPhone. You know, I have my wallet on my iPhone, but like, I would prefer it wasn't. I would prefer that my wallet, you know, like, my phone's open and my normal phone's open in my hand. I'm walking around texting all the time. Somebody can grab that phone and like get access to that. This other one that you sort of use in a different setting where you're like conscious of it. You're sitting down. You're like, I'm ready to do some Solana. And you pick out your phone and here's where all my stuff is. I really don't want that on my like daily phone.
Yeah. And also another type of apps which could be fun or and can uniquely leverage crypto is things like AI labeling stuff, right? Where today, if you have to label something, you have to log into your computer, pull a batch of tasks, then manually do it. But it would be very, very cool for an app to, you know, send you a push notification of one single image that you have to say yes or no, or like the Tinder style, right? Swipe left or swipe right based on if this is classified the correct way or not. Then you also get paid in USDC or whichever token, because now you have a wallet natively embedded into the phone.
Yeah, in terms of, and I just had a random idea pop up, is like, you know, like with something like Seeker that's crypto native that you can integrate tokens into, like you could create things like, you know, there's people, you ever heard of geocaching? It's basically like people will go hide an item somewhere and like go and trade, and they provide like GPS coordinates and clues. You could basically do digital scavenger hunts. You take a picture that's locked into the GPS. So like, you know, like just creative ideas like that, because that only works because I have a phone and a GPS inside of that phone and then crypto integrated into that. So I could go somewhere, take a picture of this, and it's like, go find it. And like, you could put some tokens inside of there. Obviously it's like not the greatest business idea in the world, but you could see where you could probably build off of that, where a brand could essentially like paid promotions to like create these digital token scavenger hunts like around the city or something like that.
Yeah.
I just made that up. I don't know.
Yeah. But also it kind of tracks well to, this has been true for any new mobile ecosystem, right? For example, going back to how Solomo was a thing where everyone was building like social, local and mobile, because this uniquely leverages what a mobile has to offer. You want people use mobile to communicate with others or send text messages. So it's inherently social. And also because your mobile also have location. So we feel like a lot of these consumer apps, you know, or these type of fun things have the higher potential to take off and could bring in net new people.
Yeah.
Right. And also, I wonder if it would be interesting if people don't just launch on Seeker, but also at the same time take the same apps and launch to other stores as well, and kind of do something sneaky like what Apple does with green bubbles, etc., so that you make it attractive for people who are not in the Seeker ecosystem to go get a Seeker.
Yeah. Actually, that's an interesting idea. I do think that everybody's tried social, like on crypto. Most of them, all of them, if not all, have mostly been failure. I think I don't even know if you call it social, but Time.fun has actually done really well. They have a unique idea and it seems to be working, but you have a much higher probability, I think, of having a successful social application if it's mobile, like with on the computer, no. But like if you have a special, like you can socialize tons of different things. And if it's like you said, everybody's on the go, everybody's mobile. If this app is like, who of my Seeker friends are near me right now? Like people I've friended and I can like see that they're in the city, like, oh, my Solana people were here. Then like, that's more compelling to use than like something like, and it's not a knock on them, like Farcaster, you know what I mean? Which is super niche, and there's no mobile app maybe there is, maybe I'm wrong, but like I think mobile has much greater odds to succeed in the social world, whatever the social type. There's tons of different types of social apps, but I think mobile is where those would succeed.
Time Dot Fun mobile app sounds like a great idea. If I can just buy Tolly hours and then call him directly and it rings his phone.
So they just announced it. They're basically they're about to launch a mobile app.
That's great.
I think what happened was that Mert probably was like, I'm on my phone all the time. I'm eating all the time. Please launch an app so I don't have to get on my computer to do Time.Fun.
Very cool.
I don't know if that's true, but probably.
All right, I have one last question.
Yeah.
Solana has great docs and videos for learning Solana Anchor. Is that true for Solana Mobile as well now? Where do people go and learn, or just need to learn Android?
Actually, not really. I think so number one, the docs for Solana Mobile are actually pretty nice. I've gone through them. Most people seem to be favorable. They can improve, obviously, but docs.solanamobile.com, that actually even includes like the process to like, that's where you go submit to the DApp Store. But the mass majority of people are not going to go and learn Android. They're going to basically build in like React Native Mobile. Or you basically just build progressive PWAs, which are progressive web apps. You can build, like they're not the most incredible. I've seen some, they can feel really close to native, but the way that I view this is like just ship something, get a PWA. It'll immediately, it's on the web. You can convert it to an APK very easily, like with very little effort if you design it properly. And then once that's done, like let's say V0 of your mobile app is like picking some traction. Maybe you get a little check from somebody to continue building that out. Then go find yourself an Android dev to build like the next iteration of that. So I think it's perfectly fine to like, ship something that like, it's good enough that users will like it. It's user friendly enough that like it's not gonna like be you don't want to ship a shitty like PWA that's like horrible to use and it doesn't feel native at all because you're just harming yourself. But if you can build one that's reasonably feels close to native, I think that's fine. And also like your time, you don't need to go learn you don't need to learn Kotlin. You basically just ship with what you know. This is like the early days when people were doing Seahorse and Python, even though it doesn't exist anymore, or really, but there were some people that I know that were onboarded to Solana Rust with Python who eventually were like, I need to take this further, and then they learn Rust. Mm-hmm. And it's the same process here.
Good gateway drug, like.
Exactly. And a lot of people combated about like being like, no, we need people to build Rust. Python is I was like, listen, you don't understand. The reason for this is not the ones you think. It's to allow people to access things they normally wouldn't do because the learning curve is so strict. Suck them in, get them excited, and then they'll go eventually once they get far enough and they'll basically delve way more deeply into that.
Yep. Makes sense.
Awesome. I have one last question.
Okay, let's go.
What are you most excited about Solana Mobile?
For me personally, from my own personal perspective, like when I joined Solana in early 2021, the chances of success were very low unless you were not building an EVM. Like it was literally like Solana is nothing. Nobody cares. Nobody's going to learn Rust. You guys have zero chance. The thing I'm most excited about Solana Mobile is proving people wrong once again. That's the thing. It's not about the phone itself. It's being like, listen, you want to sit there and be a doubter and not do anything and not build anything? Well, we will go ahead and do that.
Awesome. Yeah. With that, let's go on.
Yeah, exactly.
Such a high note to end the podcast.
Yeah. Thank you, Chase.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us.
For sure.
It's been fantastic.
Yeah.